Is it streaming?
I'll just mute this sucker. Make sure it's muted.
Definitely rely on this microphone, not the computer, because there's a delay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If I get confused, I'll walk away.
So how many members do you have at your club?
225 and counting every day in 13 days.
And how long? You just opened like a month ago, right?
Yeah, I opened July 1st, Cannabis Day.
That's right, July 1st. My friends and I, we got pepper sprayed that day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Cannabis Day in BC.
Well, we had a good Cannabis Day here because I had no problems until Tuesday.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. I mean, beautiful in the sense that Cannabis Day went off good there. It's good to see it still alive in a lot of countries. They definitely made a heavy attempt to shut it down here, this year and brought in, young officers and really militant approaches and tactics to try to scare people.
Well, that's what they know how to do, is scare people, eh?
Yeah, seems to be what they're best at. It's a little bit of what I'm going to be talking about in my opening little. Yeah, welcome back to Cannabis in Canada Live with Jason Wilcox. I had to jump right into this intro. I've been actually pumped up here and really upset. There's been a host of things happening across this country, and patients being terrified, people misunderstanding necessarily legislation between what an exemption is, dispensary clubs being raided while other ones are being permitted. There's all kinds of stuff going on in this country as a continued war with the monopoly for supply and distribution, and the people continues to break out. Now, what I'd like to talk about is the Supreme Court of Canada in R versus Smith ruled and worded very clearly that patients are allowed to use cannabis, or marijuana in all of its forms. No specifications, no limitations. So with that being said, Health Canada came back and they issued what is a Section 56 exemption. Now, for all you medical patients out there, I need you to understand that a Section 56 exemption exempted all of us from the CDSA. So what this means is that they put up a bunch of stuff to scare you and say you can't use BHO, you can't use this, you can't use organics. We're saying it's arbitrary, it's restrictive, and the coalition, the Cannabis Rights Coalition, is instructing our membership to disregard the Health Canada Section 56 exemption, and to follow what our attorneys say is to follow the R versus Smith constitutional decision as written, until such time as we can settle this once it's legislated and we can actually challenge it. Unfortunately, it is an exemption, and we cannot challenge an exemption, but we can also not necessarily listen to it. So on that note, follow R versus Smith. That's the advice for counsel, and understand that under those restrictions, those of you who are worried, the people that have invested considerable amounts of money into closed loop systems and everything else, extractor crews, guys, I know you got shook up by this, but it is nothing more than an exemption from the CDSA. Meaning you don't listen to these rules means you can't be charged because you're exempt from the CDSA, the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act of Canada. This is what is important to understand. This is more federal fear-mongering where they use policy and exemptions and different words that they can use, using language to scare you, scare patients, and to stomp once again. And this is shame on you, Rona Ambrose and Health Canada, for even issuing a Section 56 that would have arbitrary restrictions and barriers to access immediately set forth for patients in Canada, you know, under R versus Smith. Clearly going against the language of the judges, and that's the highest courts in the land. And again, the Constitution of Canada supersedes any legislative arm in this country. On that note, that's my opening rant for tonight. Now, tonight's guests happen to just go through a police engagement back east, and we're just going to we're not really back east, but more in the central part of Canada. We're kind of going to get into it and talk a bit about what happened, what went down, and what this gentleman's position is moving forward, and how we as a collective can help. So I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Glenn Price. Welcome to the show, Glenn.
Yeah, on the show tonight.
How you feeling?
So, all right tonight.
Good.
A couple days ago was a little scary, but I overcome it, you know. They came into the building and showed that they wanted to close me down, spoke to me, and I agreed to close down that day. And I'm just rallying my troops, and I'm going to reopen again on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m.
So you're going to reopen Tuesday at 11 a.m.
You betcha.
So you hear that here on...
Stop.
Sorry, I'm just letting people know that they hear that here on cannabisincanada.ca, and we're certainly going to put that out, that that's your position moving forward, because, of course, that's what we've always done as dispensaries. When we're forced to shut down, we reopen, and, you know, as soon as possible to maintain our position.
Yeah, I believe that's the right way about approaching this. Like, I tried reaching out to the mayor of Winnipeg. They told me their opinion of all this. They believe what the police are doing is right. They're to uphold the law, but it's the police's job to do whatever, but it's much higher than that. It's the federal government saying we can't do stuff like this. I'm tired of the federal government trying to run our lives, especially as medical cannabis users, telling us how, when, who to get it from. Like, they did a bad job of it at the beginning, and now they're trying to monopolize this. Well, they don't even know how to help patients here in Winnipeg.
Absolutely.
I have to school most of them.
Absolutely, and you're taking a stand for them. Now, you opened your dispensary on Cannabis Day, and out here in BC, we had activists being pepper sprayed, and you opened it in good faith. You have a few hundred members that are registered with, I'm assuming, doctors' prescriptions. Would that be accurate?
Yes, everyone has a doctor's prescription since they've been coming to me. I've actually weeded out 7 fake prescriptions already in Winnipeg.
So what was, aside from Rona Ambrose coming home for her homecoming, what else was there a reasoning for the RCMP to come in and say that there was, you should have to shut your store down or your Compassion Club down?
It was the Winnipeg police, actually, not the RCMP, but because of her complaining about medical cannabis dispensaries. But where her fight should be with the federal government, because she's argued with me that all medical cannabis patients should have the right to grow. And I believe in that with everybody else. So why are you attacking us? Go attack the federal government.
Right.
Where you may do some good.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, attacking, I think, any distribution networks at this point, when medical patients need reasonable access and the courts and the Constitution have said they need reasonable access, I think when the federal government's LP system, monopoly, fails to supply the patients of Canada already, that it's very unfortunate when they feel the need to then move against dispensaries such as yourselves, good people opening up, trying to help out and make sure patients have reasonable access. And once again, with the government's failure to supply, and also the monopoly that's going on, there is a war in this country for supply and distribution. What exactly was in the letter? Like, I mean, can you tell me about what the language is that the RCMP used? Did they just simply say shut down? Did they give you a list of MMPR people that you should be referring your clients to, like LPs or anything like that?
They basically just told me I'm breaking the law. And I think it was pressure from the federal government, is what I believe. And they didn't have no warrant, no nothing. They just walked in. As a matter of fact, the guy from the Green team, I believe he had a cheat sheet that someone wrote up for him, what he could say and what he couldn't say. So, like, I just believe it's scare tactics, and we'll find out on Tuesday.
Did you say they had no warrant when they showed up?
No, they didn't come with a warrant. They come in and sit at the door. They asked if they could speak to me privately, and I, like a man I am, come on into my building. Yes, here's, have a seat. I'll talk to you. They discussed whatever they wanted to discuss, and I told them I can't stop helping 225 patients in Winnipeg here. In 13 days I've been open. I've got over 225 patients now because every day there's 5 walking in from that's got signed up somewhere else, and I'm sending 3 or 4 to the doctor. You know, so with the people that have been meeting me in Winnipeg, they've been telling me their stories, and they're touching me so much that this movement has consumed my life already. Like they're the stories that I hear about a guy went to Afghanistan for 2 years, fought for us, right? Come back. You think anybody in Winnipeg would help him? Not one person until he found me. And he's thanking me. But we should be thanking him for what he's done for Canada. Absolutely. We send them away whole and they come back broke, and then this is the only alternative medicine for him that works. And they're going to try and close me down for stopping to help patients like that. That's unreal.
Well, it's definitely, once again, I keep saying this on CannabisCanada.ca and on the show here as much as we can, that there is a war over supply and distribution going on in this country because the monopoly is trying to set up under the medical marijuana premise when, as our own health minister so rightfully and legally puts, Canada holds no value or medical value for marijuana. Therefore, there's a true hypocrisy that they're setting up this Molson and Labatt's cannabis underneath the medical marijuana scheme when there is no value to marijuana in this country. People, there's a hypocrisy going on in Canada's democracy. What's your thoughts on that, Glenn?
Well, to say it's something about there's no value in cannabis, I have a 65-year-old lady that signed up, never smoked a day in her life, cigarette or otherwise, came in here and tried to teach me how to use a bong, right? Well, I just laughed at her, right? Like, that's unheard of. You never smoked before in your life? You're not going to like it. I know that for a fact. She tried. She didn't like it. Well, she wanted information, so I told her, here, you're going to have to eat it. You can have a cookie. You can have butter. I give her a cookie to try. She took it home. Oh, that's perfect. That works good for me. So she got some product. I told her how to make butter. It wasn't the right product for her. So she came back to me, and I give her a sample of something that I use for myself. And she wants to call it Mary's Miracle Butter. That's what she wants to call it. She's 65 years old, and she went to a pain clinic or a pain management meeting. She brought a 72-year-old lady into my store yesterday. She got information how to go to the doctor. She's going to the doctor, and she's getting signed up. She wants some of that butter, too. So if there's nothing to it, well, why are these 65, 70-year-old people, same with my age, 50-year-old people, we know better, right? We know what's good for us. We know that there's good values to it. It helps a lot of things. But there's ignorant people out there that don't want to educate themselves. They just believe the propaganda that the federal government feeds us and feeds the doctors.
Absolutely. Well, that's what's going on right now. Is in my own opinion, as you mentioned, there was a right to grow issue, and the federal government took it upon themselves to start off this MMPR with this whole fire, mold, and gangsters or organized crime, if you have it, claim that they failed to really substantiate. And that led into their additional, what seems to be a monopoly, and now they're setting up clinics, if you have it. And I believe these clinics are why dispensaries are getting shut down, so that the ones that are willing to, in the next 5-year transition period, whatever is set out, I have no idea what it is. I'm assuming there's a transition period, but those clinics are ultimately going to sell LP weed or LP cannabis. And, you know, that's one type of a top-down monopoly that I just don't think is a Canadian way, and it's certainly not a free and fair market. You know, what's your kind of take on that, and do you think that that has any part in why the police, you know, took this position with you?
That could be one of the reasons why, and the monopoly, like the people that are online that are government sites. Like I've watched one that I despise and give me grief for months is Tilray. I watched they put a product online for $8 a gram. In a week and a half, it went to $15 a gram. I can sell that product in Winnipeg that they're selling for $15 for $10 and cheaper. So how can they, and then they charge delivery charge and all this kind of stuff. The federal government, they're just trying to gouge people that are looking for medicine. And a lot of people in Winnipeg, my patients are all fixed income. They're all retired already. They don't have a lot of money. So I got to try and find the best product that I can at the proper price that works for everybody. Right. And like when I had my dispensary open, I had 8, 9 different kinds of product. Plus that, some oils and stuff, you know. So I was helping the people that needed help in Winnipeg, where the federal government failed all of us.
I would agree. They have absolutely failed us, and I think that that's demonstrated in R.V. Smith, which is once again why we're suggesting to everybody from the Cannabis Rights Coalition, our position is going to be to ignore that Section 56 exemption and to follow R.V. Smith until actual legislation arises from the federal government of Canada in relation to R.V. Smith, because the Constitution certainly overrides any exemption that government wants to give. And it's more of a fear-mongering tactic that I think we need to share and continue to collaborate and build our people out and let them know what's going on, because these are the tactics that are used to divide and conquer the voice, similar to what happened here in BC when they tried to shut down Cannabis Day, where 10,000 people unite to 15,000 people come out to celebrate the fact that we're able to still fight these laws, that the drug war is not fully over, but also that legalization is on the horizon, just not the way that the monopoly would like to have it. On that note, we're going to be going to a break here in another 5 minutes. So now moving forward, you plan to open up Tuesday. Now, what's your position? Have you retained counsel and stuff in case RCMP do come and arrest you? Do you have cameras ready?
I'm a farm boy. I work hard for my money. Why am I going to pay someone now when I don't need them now? When I need a lawyer, I'll get a lawyer. I know I've never had a drug charge in my life except for simple possession 30 years ago. So I know if they come and charge me, I should be able to sign myself out and I don't need a lawyer until I go to court. And if they want to pursue it, I believe I'll defend myself for as long as I can. If they want to play games with me, well, let's play, because they picked on the wrong person to play games with.
Nice, that's good to hear. I'm just trying to, again, looking at the battle plans and exactly, you know, what it is that, you know, when I say battle plans, I mean this is going to be a legal battle for a free and fair market and challenging the monopolies' legal stance right now. As of April 1st, they were allowed to sell cannabis in this country, or marijuana as they like to call it, in this country, and that puts people like you and me, criminals, if we choose to sell any and we choose to help our patients. Even though the federal government, my own opinion, the community necessity defense still applies, and I'm sure most council would agree with me, for those that continue to operate dispensaries. And I'm wondering, that's why I was asking about the attorney. None of us like to hire attorneys. I can I can relate with you on that one. But at the same time, it's good to have a legal battle plan for if they do decide to go that direction. And shut them down. Do you have any plans to go talk to the city of Winnipeg about regulating, similar to Vancouver and Victoria?
I have already, and their views, the mayor told me to meet with me, and then after the police came, I wanted a meeting with the mayor to see what his views are all about on this, like what Winnipeg's about. And they basically got one of the flunkies to phone me today and tell me they stand behind the Winnipeg police. So I don't know if it's scare tactics or what, but whatever. They can do whatever they want to me. They're not going to stop this, and if they arrest me, it'll just give me more power when I get out. And I'm not going to stop until there's 10 dispensaries open in Winnipeg, because there should be more people like me opening them every day here. So if there's 10, well, try and close us all down at once, instead of just picking on one little single guy like me.
Absolutely. And that's just it. They're picking on the one small guy in the one small province that's trying to make a difference because they can, while they're trying to figure out how to deal with other provinces. And I'm finding this as a medical activist, just one big mess after another continuing. And Rona Ambrose is really, at the end of the day, in the Conservative Party of Canada, continuing from you know, their MMPR implementation, ruled unconstitutional, and their fix is to issue this S56 exemption that once again puts such heavy restrictions on R.V. Smith that if it was legislation, we'd be in court tomorrow challenging it as unconstitutional. So what's your thoughts on this continued thing? Just before we go to commercial break, let's get some closing thoughts on some of the recent, like for instance, are you familiar with the Allard recent ruling on no changing of addresses, no removal of the 150-gram limit? In the Allard trial, Justice Phelan spoke and has given his decision to not expand the injunction and to dismiss our motion to vary. What's your take on that?
Well, I don't know that they're only saying we're allowed to have 150 grams. Well, my doctor has written me a prescription for more than that under the new license, because I'm not under the old license. I'm under the new license, and if they want to challenge it, I'll challenge it, because the doctor said I can have that amount. And if I can have that amount per month, I lived in rural Manitoba, I'm not going to order my medicine 3 or 4 times and pay shipping time every time you got to order medicine. I would order it all at once.
I would agree with you. I mean, just in closing here, we're going to go to commercial break, but nobody should have to pay for shipping and handling, tax from a mail order system, where at the end of the day, you end up more paying like $12, $13, $14 a gram for medical patients for a product that you can actually grow for 4 cents a gram with LED technology. On that note, thanks to MMJ Dispensary, Cannabis Growers of Canada, RedMed Dispensary, Beard Brothers Concentrate, and the Cannabis Rights Coalition for being able to help make shows like this happen and keep them rolling. And a shout out to Press for Truth for continuing to cover the truth about what's going on in this country and what's going on in this world in relation to medical marijuana and marijuana legalization. On that note, we'll see you when we get back from commercial break. Cheers.
Welcome aboard the Extract Express. Justin Loizas reporting with Cannabis in Canada. Here I'm with the Cannabis Rights Coalition, taking Extract Express on another adventure. This time we're taking it out to London for a fundraiser to try and save our gardens. So we're loaded up here with a lot of great things. I'm enjoying it. We're having a good time. We're just getting started.
Our mission and our goal was to really be a vital part of the community and provide an essential service for the medical community.
First of all, I would just like to say thank you for putting on this great event. And right now, the Cannabis Rights Coalition looks like they have the government up against the wall.
I'll be damned if anybody's gonna go to jail for growing and smoking their own medicine.
You have to stand up. If you just sit back in your house and medicate, it's not gonna change anything. So you have to have your voice heard.
Having a great time and educating, and raising funds and awareness for the fight to save our gardens. And I know how important the coalition is to me, to the thousands of members that we represent and that are protected by this injunction that we're fighting for every day.
Welcome back to Cannabis Canada with Jason Wilcox. We've got Patrick here, and of course Chad Jacket in the house.
It's been a great event. It's been really busy. This is how the event started. I was blowing glass with some friends on a beautiful property, and I said, man, wouldn't it be amazing to blow glass with a live band? Let's invite a few more friends over, and we'll have a party.
Wonderful people. Everybody's always having a great time at your events and all these events, all these cannabis events. You know, beautiful, beautiful people everywhere.
I can't get used to how peaceful it is out here. You put on such a good thing, fighting cannabis causes, fighting for liberty. What's your closing remarks this year on just the facts of liberty and the climax, I guess, that we're at right now with medical marijuana and cannabis in general going into 2015 elections?
I think we're going to see the NDP surge ahead as far as politically with Justin's unfortunate stance with the C-51 and just made him look like a weak political leader, I think.
Nothing's helped us legally other than the courts, you know, when it comes to the right to liberty in this country. It means the only thing we got is the Constitution, and indeed Harper's stomping on it.
Screw the Constitution. We got ourselves, we got our voice, we got our beings, we got our movement. We're all going to meet still Cannabis Day. We're going to be at that art gallery. I don't care what people say. See, I can't gather there and sell a medical delivery device. Well, watch us.
All right, well, once again, brother, thanks again. This is 2015 Great Canadian Glass Gathering. Boom. Peace, brother. Yeah, peace out.
Very strange how this creature goes right for this cannabis plant. Little does it know it needs a license. It's not threatened at all by government bureaucracy. I believe they call this species the chicken. Wow. What a brave beast this is. The chicken.
Yeah, and there is the chickens. I love that commercial, and it's one of those things that just gets you laughing. But at the same time, we can't always laugh. We can't always sit back and do nothing. And you know, one of my friends and I had a discussion about the word act and action in relation to being an activist. The word act is in activist for a reason. It's a difference between a protester and an activist. That's what matters. And people need to understand this as we move forward, because if it weren't for the activists here in BC on Cannabis Day, there wouldn't have been a Cannabis Day. And for those soldiers that were out there on the front lines, I appreciate it. For those that weren't, I ask that you be there next time for the next round. Now, that being said, moving back in now, Glenn, I got you back here on the line. I'd like the audience, we have people in the audience, I'd like you to fire away questions, questions you'd like to have for Glenn around his positioning and opening back up, around what's going on. Once again, this is Thursday, July 16th, cannabisincanada.ca. We're covering everything we can as a breaking exclusive and getting as much as we can information from Glenn, and we're here for you. So to be interactive, fire away the questions and we'll get them out and get them to Glenn. So Glenn, one of my questions would be, how was your run-in with that team, the Green Team with Winnipeg? Because I had my run-in with Green Team of Abbotsford.
Oh, my run-in with the Winnipeg Green Team was, I thought was really well. They were men about it, didn't hide about it.
Well, that's good. I know that I had a lot of different experience out here. They came out here and left a happy face and thought it was all funny until we sued them. But, and they also came back and they came back in force, and some of that stuff's even used in more of our videos. Anybody out there want to check it out, check out Jason Wilcox versus the Police, because that led up to why the coalition was ever even formed. Speaking of the coalition, Glenn, are you a member of the coalition, or your family, or anybody you know in that region?
My wife, my daughter signed me up to the MMAR. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So you guys are aware. You guys are aware of us back there, then.
Oh yeah, that's where I got all my knowledge from. Is from you people back there putting on the fight that should have been here 5-10 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, I believe it's going to be here for another 5 or 10 years, because we're not going anywhere, and I know the people of Canada aren't going anywhere. As Patrick said very well up at Redbeard's gathering there, Great Canadian Glass Gathering, this is about liberty, this is about our culture, you know, and if the Constitution of Canada fails us, then those men that are free will live free, and it's going to be unfortunate for the country of Canada. But for the medical patients who get caught up in the middle of this, to me it's just more arbitrary crossfire, prohibitionary crossfire that we're caught in after we've been constitutionally legal in this country since 2001 in in 2000 in RV Parker. In the Parker decision, we became legal, and yet we're still in this prohibitionary crossfire, like your 200 plus members of your dispensary. Now, why did they go to you and not to the LP system? I think maybe the city of Winnipeg should ask themselves that question. What's your thoughts on that, Glenn?
Well, that's right. The federal government failed everybody in Winnipeg, because in 13 days they wouldn't have 225 patients, would they, if the federal government was doing their job?
Exactly. And now where are those 200 patients going to go if you weren't to reopen? They would be forced to go to a black market or a corner drug dealer. Is that really putting a patient in a safer position or any form of harm reduction for the city of Winnipeg?
No, I believe that I am providing the Winnipeg Police a service, that I'm taking people from the black market and making them legit, right? Signing them up, telling people that, hey, this is the way to do it. We got to stand up in numbers if we want to do anything. So get signed up. Why go to the black market?
Absolutely. And get signed up, and again, and this is the thing, it's a black market now. So for your members that you're getting you're looking after, like you said, you were able to provide, I think you said 8 different strains or whatever available for your members and products, or you know, for them, something that certainly a licensed producer cannot provide. And this goes back to that, what I'm talking about here, Glenn, is that community necessity defense, which has been used in the city of Vancouver, been used in the city of Victoria, and why we have so many clubs here in BC. As long as the federal government cannot supply the patients of Canada, there is simply a community necessity defense, and that's the necessity your 200 patients need, my friend, in the city of Winnipeg, because they choose not to take the prescription and order from an LP supply for a reason.
Yeah, because most times they see a picture of something that's really nice, and then when they get it, it's totally different, right? So that's why they're coming to me. Plus, in Winnipeg, where the federal government fails to give a money-back guarantee, you buy something from me. If you're not happy with it, bring it back to me. I'll give you something else, and if I don't have something else, I'll refund your money in full.
Totally. And that's what matters. Now, your pricing, how is your pricing scheme there versus the LP pricing?
Well, my top shelf stuff is $10, and I have low as $3 a gram, and an ounce of trim for butter is $50.
Nice. Well, that's better almost than some of the pricing here. But on that note, we do have a question from the audience from a Jay Robinson, and it's actually a good question because, it says, I'm going to let you answer this first, and I'm going to weigh in after that. But the question for yourself is, do you agree that cannabis is a spiritual as well as medicinal in respect to its use?
Well, I have friends believe that, Native friends in Winnipeg here, that believe that all people, Indigenous people, should have the right to smoke in Canada, and medical.
Right. Do you see a spiritual value to it? I guess is a question. Like you see, we both say that there's medicinal value. Do you see that there is spiritual value as well, or that's something that you see as a value in cannabis to your membership?
Yeah, well, there's something there, right? They're drawing things to me, and it is spiritual, I guess, because the stories that they've been telling me have been touching me so much that things are happening to me that I don't know why.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And just so everybody understands here in Canada that the Church of the Universe already took this argument and self-represented to the Supreme Court of Canada, and that spiritual argument unfortunately failed at the SCC. And at the same time, for someone like myself, I would say that it's very spiritual. It depends on the individual. Most importantly, it's undeniably preventative medicine. It's like a multivitamin. The way cannabinoids work with the endogenous system and all this exploration that they're pretending to just figure out, we've been trying to push and teach, and we have been teaching here on Cannabis Canada for 8 years now, about cannabinoids, and the human body. And there's so much more to learn about the medicinal properties of this plant, and it's the only plant in the world that our bodies are predisposed to accept in a medicinal manner. In the CB1 and CB2 receptor cells, unless you're an alien, then it's medicinal and it's preventative medicine at best. And that cannot be argued other than by Health Minister Rona Ambrose, who seems to think that there's absolutely no medical value and save the kids and everything else. And I really think Rona's attention should be focused on heroin and cocaine if you really want to save the kids, because in methamphetamine, and really do some research on cannabis and look at some of the real research that's here in Canada. So I'm sort of ranting off here a bit. Now, what's your take on this what will you advise your members there in Winnipeg now, based on what I've said here? I'd like to get your feedback just on the exemption, the Section 56 exemption that was granted or given by Health Canada actually sets arbitrary barriers for medical patients and their providers to provide proper medicine by virtue of an exemption that's not binding to the CDSA, because by its own nature, it is exempt from the CDSA. What's your take on that?
Well, I don't know too much about the old licenses and stuff, but I tell everybody that comes in here, if you have an old license, you should be growing to the maximum amount. And if you ain't, start your lights up and grow.
Okay, well, let's just take the plants out of the picture. Let's just look at just R versus Smith. The Constitution of Canada, okay, the highest courts in the land, there ain't no bigger, a bunch of judges, they all together said, we have a right to use cannabis, marijuana, in all of its forms. There is nothing higher than the Constitution in this country. So the fact that Health Canada came back with an exemption and told persons like myself that, and those that want to help me with extractions, etc., that we can't have organic solvents, we can't use BHO, blah, 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 and you can't use edibles, you can't do all these different things, which we know work medically, and I believe was a fear-mongering tactic and very nasty of Health Canada to try and go out and do that and scare people when it's an unenforceable exemption. What's your thoughts?
Okay, now I understand what you're talking about the laws, about the edibles and stuff. Yeah, I totally believe we should be able to consume our medicine any way we choose to. If we want to eat it, smoke it, drink it, juice it, whatever. It's the way we consume our medicine. We should be able to consume it like any other medicine, whatever way we choose to, right?
Well, this is it, and this is why the Cannabis Rights Coalition, being a federal nonprofit, taken an extremely hard stance. We've already paid over $250,000 fighting in Allard to kick their ass and prove no fire, mold, and gangsters existed. We've also sued them for $40 million with Branch and McMaster in a privacy matter, you know, that's now been certified. We're just waiting to see how that plays out. So there's a lot of stuff. We also restrain the government. There's a lot of stuff that we've been doing, but the Cannabis Rights Coalition takes extreme exception to this Section 56 exemption, and our attorneys as well. This is going on record. You know, John W. Conroy, QC, his advice to me was to advise our membership to simply ignore that Section 56 exemption due to its arbitrary barriers to access, and to follow what the Constitution of Canada said in R.V. Smith until Health Canada decides that they will legislate. Now, once Health Canada legislates officially, we're right there to pounce on it. And I challenge you now, and I warn you now, Health Canada, just like we warned you in 2012 with a letter from Conroy that said, if you move forward, we will sue you and take you to court and put you on trial. We did. Now what's happening is we're telling you again, if you legislate like you just gave an exemption, the Cannabis Rights Coalition will file charges against you and put you back on trial. And you will be the defendant once again, explaining why your program is somehow constitutional over the constitutional right of patients, Section 7 right to liberty, and reasonable limits on it. What you're doing is not reasonable, Rona, and what you're doing, Health Canada and friends, is not reasonable. And why is Canada allowing millions and millions and millions of dollars after a decade of this program to continue to go? And now we're looking at raiding more clubs, busting more clubs that are actually helping the medical patients while this monopoly moves in that nobody's ordering from. I'm sorry I'm ranting here a bit, Glenn. I'm sorry I'm a bit loud in your computer there, but what's your take on this? Because this to me is just, it's insulting. It leads into why I believe dispensaries will be hit, and it also leads into the continued fear-mongering that they like to do. And the legal precedents, the legal challenge towards a monopoly, we still don't know. I mean, how do you challenge somebody that's been given a right on April 1st, 2014 to sell marijuana in this country? They've been an exclusive right. Now, how do you challenge that? Other than the fact that they've been given that right under a charade called medical marijuana, which is a lie. And the health minister just admitted it. It's a lie. There is no medical value. Then why the hell did you call it medical marijuana or medical marijuana access regulations, the medical marijuana access division, and now the marijuana for medical purposes regulations? Medical. No medical value to cannabis or marijuana. So the hypocrisy that's going on is really, and as Mr. Conroy has said here on cannabisincanada.ca, Mr. Conroy has said this was set up for legalization. It's being set up under this umbrella of medical, and I think it's very unfortunate as the good people continue to be shut down, patients get displaced, and nobody cares because this is about their stock portfolio, about the points going up. And if this is the Canadian way, I know the Constitution wasn't set out to stomp on patients' rights, their right to autonomy, and the free and fair market is something I just thought was mandated in Canada. But, you know, clearly, I guess if a monopoly can set up underneath the scope of the Constitution, underneath the scope of the government with their permission to go ahead and do this without any medical value to marijuana, I just don't know how that's allowed. And there's certainly not a free and fair market when people like Glenn cannot run a store that serves 200 patients in a small city. Well, no, Winnipeg's a pretty big city, but in a region that has no help. Now, Glenn, what are you going to do here on Tuesday when you open up, and what's your message to your members, and what's your message to the other foot soldiers out here in Canada that understand that there is a war going on for supply and distribution, and the frontline warriors need to step up, and that seems to be the position you're taking? Did we lose Glenn? Well, I'm just going to keep ranting because it looks like we dropped it. That's technology with Skype. It's almost time to close out the video or this particular interview anyway. I'm extremely tired. Everybody should understand that there's a lot going on right now. There are people mounting and posturing and positioning. Pay attention, follow the money, follow the pictures, follow the hype, and follow the new community collective and new ways of doing things and how we can all work together peacefully and in serenity for a certain group of people. And I think that that's very unfortunate for the cannabis culture. I think it's going to tear us apart. And I don't think that we should allow a monopoly to tear apart a culture that was built under prohibition by the very same people that want to monopolize us now. How many times does this culture get raped? Glenn, are you back, brother?
Yeah, I am here.
All right, did you hear my ranting?
Yeah.
Okay, good. What's your take on some of that?
My take on that? Yeah, we should all stand up together and do what we have to make this movement come right across Canada.
Across Canada already as medical patients, and we're definitely looking to expand that further. And we're going to need to. We need a number of people. We need to mass people. We need to make a large body of people to push back a monopoly that can't sell to the people. If you want to force something down our throat but through the federal monopoly and not properly deal with the people in a free and fair market, I believe that a big price war is going to break out. And I believe that what needs to happen is people need to push back, get to the table, have some sensible dialogue, sensible policy, have these wars in the courtroom, have these protests and these sit-ins under Section 2 of the Charter to finally end what in essence is a war over supply and distribution. When the dust settles, I hope to God that Canada has a free and fair market and that a bunch of good cannabis people that are trying to provide for medical patients don't end up in jail under the other trifecta of the Conservatives, which is their conservative Bill C-10. What's your take on that, mandatory minimums for Bill C-10?
Well, that's stupid. Like, you're going to jail for a plant. Like, it's crazy.
Not just for a plant. I mean, they have mandatory minimums now for trafficking in cannabis. They have mandatory minimums for any of that. And trafficking, honestly, is just handing a joint from one person to the next. But moreover, it comes in, you're right, it was written for plants. It was really written for cannabis. They said it was for, community safeties stuff. But it's a bill that's designed for the first time ever to set mandatory minimums for a victimless crime, for a non-violent crime. So to go ahead and throw somebody mandatorily in jail for 6 months for 6 plants, that again is something that we believe is arbitrary, and it lends more credence to when we talk about what is Harper doing, stomping on the Constitution. He's continuing to do it, and we're continuing to report on it. And now God knows that I've been threatened over the years, and other people have been threatened. This is a war. We call it a war for a reason. And they got the power of the monopoly. They got the power of the legislative arm, if you have it, giving them the permission to do what they're doing, but they haven't yet secured the people. The MMPR is not servicing many people in Canada. But we, the people who are, if we unite and put ourselves under one banner, indeed, we can do the same thing the medical patients did in Allard by sitting and collecting nationally and funding that case and taking them on. I believe we can do the exact same thing here, and we're going to get that call out to the lawyers and get people talking to us that I want to look at this free and fair fight and how to get involved. What's your take on that part there, Glenn? Let's get some more. Let's keep this going here.
More people have to get involved in this fight. You're right. A lot more people. And we just got to keep educating people to know their rights and stand up for their rights instead of letting the federal government push us around.
Well said. And indeed, know your rights, and once again, know that right now you are bound by nothing more than the fact that you can have all forms of cannabis on you, and in respect to the Constitution of Canada and in relation to R.V. Smith. I would still suggest you respect that 150-gram limit, but barring that, there's nothing else to say. So what will you be doing the day that you reopen here? Will there be a place or events, people that want to come out and support you, people that might see this show, they want to come down, rally, get out there and support you? Who do they contact? Where do they go? What can they expect to see?
On Main Street I'm at 1404 Main Street in Winnipeg, Manitoba. The shop phone number is 586-4899. I'm open from 11 to 8 on Tuesday. Be here at 11 because that's when I'll start serving medicine, and I don't know how long for, but I'll be here doing it.
Excellent. Now, are you going to have cameras and everything there to cover yourself?
My building's full of cameras, and I will have news crews, radio stations. Anybody that will listen to me will be here on Tuesday to film what's going to happen.
Well, you know that Cannabis in Canada will be here, and we'll certainly be following up with you, Glenn. Now, as we close out on this interview, I first want to thank you, but I also want to go through, is there any shout-outs you want to give? I know you run another store. Do you want to tell people where they can find you online? And as well as what your other store provides for the people of or the people in the city of Winnipeg?
I have a Facebook page under Your Medical Cannabis Headquarters. That's to educate and to give people a doctor, and the dispensary is called Your Medical Cannabis Services, and I have a page up also on Facebook. There's not much on the Facebook service side, but most people walk in and see what we have here.
Well, I can tell you now that a lot more people, I believe, will start to be contacting you. My friends, reach out to Glenn Price. He is making a stand, and pay attention on Tuesday. Cannabis in Canada will be following up with Glenn, and we'll be reporting, as we always do, where the controversy meets the concrete here on Cannabis in Canada. Glenn Price, thank you for being on the show. And yeah, we're just going to wrap this up here for a night, and pay attention to what continues to follow here as the dispensary wars and the war over supply and distribution continues in Canada. We'll see you in the next show.
Cannabis in Canada.